Good morning. This is Harold Zawatsky. I'm the chair of the Fairfield Board of Assessment Appeals. Today is Monday, April 26th, and the time is 9:11 a.m. And I'm calling this meeting to order. This meeting is for the deliberation and voting upon appeals properly brought before the board. And Kathy is doing our minutes, and I will ask Kathy to please do a roll call.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Paulette Cuso. I didn't hear Paulette.
Here.
Kathleen Griffin.
Here.
Alexis Harrison. Alexis is not present. Peter Rupert. Peter is not present. Harold Zawatsky.
Here.
Ronique Patel. Ronique is not present. John Spoilier. John is not present. Judy Zablack.
Here.
Catherine Giff.
Here.
That completes the roll call.
Thank you, Kathy. So I think this morning we want to try to do the commercial properties that we had. I have one outstanding personal property that I'd like to get off the table. And if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to do that. And then we can see who wants to do the properties that they have heard. That be all right?
Sounds like a plan.
Work.
So I have appeal number. Appeal number 66. And this is the property owner is Samantha Krasnicki. The location is 1877 Black Rock Turnpike. The town's value is $2,800. The appellant's opinion of fair market value is $1,300. Now, I spoke to Samantha and actually emailed her and called her several times to ask her to please send in her declaration. As you may recall, we had several people who failed to do a declaration. And she finally did. It's in the record. And her situation is that she's a freelance hairdresser. And she rents some space at Salon V or Salon 5, I'm not sure. And she has filed for a business name, and that's how the town picked it up. But in the declaration, you can see that she has no property of value. On page 7, she started to write down a number based upon what her expended supplies are, but then she crossed that out. And in fact, that is that she doesn't own any property. Whatever supplies she uses in her business, she uses up. And since she's a freelance hairdresser that is only renting a chair in a salon, not even where she lives, but that's a place of business, I make a motion to grant this appeal to the appellant's fair market value of $1,300.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. So just to continue, and I should have said this after the motion, I don't feel that she owes anything because she has no personal property within the town of Fairfield related to her business. So my opinion is that the appeal should be reduced to 0, and there should be no penalty because there's no value. So, okay. What's the other side say?
So this is Kathleen Harold. Did she file in the other town?
I don't know that we're required to determine that. Again, she does not have any personal property, uh, except what she uses up, during her sessions, whether it is dye or, does she have a pair of scissors or a brush or a comb, what have you. So I feel that, given the fact that unlike other businesses that have personal property that can be valued, I don't believe that she has any. Kathleen?
Catherine?
Catherine.
Yeah,
You mean Catherine.
Yes, of course.
I'm going to abstain from this because that's where I get my hair cut and I know the owner, so I feel like that's a little weird. So I'm going to abstain. However, accounting background, what she's reporting even on this personal property, your personal property is depreciable assets, and then for tax reasons, it's all other else. But she's actually reporting supplies, which is a current period expense. And is probably not eligible for the depreciation classes of a personal property report. She,
Okay.
she's going to Schedule C or his Schedule E or whatever, or 1099. She's going to include all those as supply expenses, and nothing would be depreciable. I mean, she's asking for towels, and so Harold, I think your evaluation is sound, and I would back that. But let me know if I'm allowed to do that, if I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Okay, so I think it's a two-step process. First, we have to amend the appeal.
Oh, this is Kathleen. Just one other question. Ross, can you just weigh in on how that does or doesn't affect any of the other personal properties, requirements in your office, and how that, given that she's not in Fairfield? Was that the main argument, that she has no assets, right?
Well, this is Harold. The main argument, I believe, is that she has no personal property in the town.
Okay, but do we still require people to file when they don't have any personal property?
Could we?
I don't know. We remember the gentleman down there with the sign in Southport. He said he had nothing, so he filled it out, and then he got 0, and we voted on it. But she didn't want to fill it out, right? Even though she has a business in town. I don't know. I just want to be clear on whether we are giving her an exception to what we normally require other people to do. Or is she a unique situation? And I just want Ross to answer that, and then
Okay. Ross, do you wish to address Kathleen's question?
Yeah, this is Ross. We ask people to file so that we know, they tell us what they have. If they don't file, then we have to make an assumption and as to what the assets are, and that's where, the problems start. So we do ask people to file, even if they don't have anything, to let us know what that situation is so that we can either decide whether they need a declaration the following year or whether they don't need one at all.
has she ever filed? No.
And this is Harold. The declaration does say if you have property in the town. Okay, so just like the publisher who rents space in Southport to have an address, similar to if you are renting a mailbox in the somewhere, or the post office, there is no personal property that is can't be valued. So given that fact, I'd like to make a motion to amend the town's value to 0. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Judy seconds. All those in favor?
Sorry, Harold, 1 second. What did she request? 0? So
0.
So was your original motion 0? So then you don't need to amend it if your original motion was 0.
No, I made the original motion as to what was on the declaration. I mean, on the petition. If you look at the petition, it had $1,300, which is what I stated.
Okay, so that's what she asked for, and now she's changing it to 0.
Correct, because
Okay.
She was not clear as to what, this is the first
Okay.
time I did it. She was uncertain as to how to complete it.
Right,
Okay.
so I would say just make a friendly amendment and make it 0, because that's what she told you once she understood the process was 0. It's not like we're changing it for her, right? She's requesting 0. So I think you don't even need an amendment. I think we can just say her requested value was 0, and
All
then
right,
you
that's
can just
fine.
vote on the motion. Does that
I
make
make
sense?
I make a
Easier.
friendly amendment to change the town's value to 0. And now all those in favor of granting this appeal to a value of 0, please raise your hand. I have 1, 2, 3 opposed, 1 opposed, abstentions, 1 abstention. The vote to grant this appeal to a value of 0 is 3-1-1, with Kathleen opposed and Catherine abstaining. Thank you. All right, so we have some properties and commercial properties. Judy, are you ready to present?
Yeah, you know what? I'm as ready as I'll ever be. And, you know, I did a thing yesterday. So when I was preparing, you know how I'm always shuffling papers, right? I'm always trying to find it. So here's what I did. I went to my personal notes and I did everything in order of my personal notes. So I'm not shuffling papers today. How's that?
6 weeks in, that's good.
Hey.
I know.
All right. Well, since we have a bunch here, okay. So, yeah, I'm ready to go. By the way, everybody, this is under commercial deliberation, so make sure you go to the right tab. And the first 4 appeals are from the same appellant. They're slightly different, but I just want to let you know they're from the same appellant. And we're going to start with number 235. Let me just find them here. 235. Okay, appeal number 235, property owner's name is Luigi Center, LLC. Luigi Giasanti was the presenter. He also brought along his real estate agent. And the town's value of the property is $1,056,400. The appellant's opinion of fair market value is $950,000. And I make a motion to approve the appellant's opinion of fair market value of $950,000. Is there a second?
Catherine will second.
Thank you, Catherine. You know, one of the things is if you look right on his appeal, the rental income had decreased by more than 17%. The property has not increased. You know, there are, so let me just get here, and I got my glasses on today. There's a lot of deferred maintenance. And I think, let's see, did he add anything else to this that you should see? But there's a lot of deferred maintenance. He's not asking, he's asking for just a little less, you know, about $100,000 less. There's a lot of deferred maintenance on the property. And, you know, as I look at it, it really does not seem to be unreasonable with that. There are 2 floors. There's 2 rentals on the first floor. Upstairs, there's 12 office suites. There are no leases there. Not one. Not one. And he's at 60% occupancy for the building. So you know what? Really, really, guys, he's not asking for a lot. And although, and you'll find throughout any of the time that I'm going through these, there's not a lot that I feel very strongly for, but I do feel strongly for this gentleman. I feel strongly for, especially given the scope and given the commercial, some of the properties I'm going to want to refrain from. This is not one of them.
This is Harold. I see 5 pages in the file, and on his petition, he indicated that he was planning to get a commercial appraiser involved.
I saw that, right, but I don't have that from him.
Okay.
And a commercial appraisal, by the way, does not happen in a week or 10 days. I mean, that takes a long time. His commercial broker was there with him.
I just want to check and verify. So he makes claims about condition, deferred maintenance. Has anyone gone to see this property?
Yeah, it's right near the Fairfield Bridgeport line. And I can see that there's some things that need to have happen, but he also doesn't have tenants, which is another big part of it.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, I'll to vote. All those in favor of granting the requested value, please raise your hand. I have 2 in favor. Opposed, please raise your hand. I have 3 opposed. The motion is not granted. The appeal is not granted, I should say. The vote is 2 in favor, 3 opposed. Judy and Paulette in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Next one. Next one is appeal number 236. Property owner's name is Luigi Center, LLC. The appellant, Luigi Gensanti, was there with his commercial real estate broker. The town's opinion of value is $1,676,000, and the appellant's opinion of fair market value is $1,310,000. And I make a motion that we approve the appellant's opinion of fair market value of $1,310,000. Is there a second?
Catherine will second.
Thank you, Catherine. And on this building, the rental income has decreased by more than 15%. The rental income, based upon the rental income, the valuation should have decreased. Again, I do not have an appraisal. But if you look at some of the pictures, it needs to be repaved. Parking lot needs to be done. There's one vacancy and needs a roof, and the roof is leaking. And we really, we've got to take care of these people. Listen, he's bringing business into the town. He's doing what he can, but we also need to, do what we can to assist here. We're being very tough on some of these guys when we don't need to be. Like that last appeal, that was reasonable. That was absolutely reasonable. This is reasonable. If it wasn't, I would go to bat for him.
This is Paulette. I agree. I was going to say something about that. When you have 50%, 30% vacancies on these buildings, that's where the income is. So there's less value when they can't rent. And this, with COVID, this is a problem in this sector. We have no problem saying that properties are worth way more in the residential side because of COVID. We need to look at this side in the opposite way because it has a great effect on their values as well. But we just seem to not do that. I just don't know why. I don't know if we're not thinking about that, but that's really something to think about.
This is Harold. Did he present any income statements or any financial information?
No, he did not.
So the town.
Other than what he has told me, but we are looking at pictures and we do see. Look at that lot. How is he supposed to even get tenants with a lot looking like that?
This is Harold. Well, there are already tenants there, but my point is that the town has valued this property based upon the income and expense statements that are on file. I believe that that's how the town does commercial properties. So unless he provides some other evidence for this, I don't think that just looking at the asphalt and a picture of and the pictures that were submitted is sufficient reason to grant the amount of the request. The town has already valued it based upon the financial information that was submitted.
He does have a vacancy, Harold, and, if you drive by, you'll see that there's a vacancy.
This is Harold. I'm familiar with the shopping center. I do shop there, utilize some of the businesses that are there. And that vacancy can change tomorrow, especially now that things are opening up more. Paulette, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just had a question for Ross. I just want to understand better. Is the income and the income statement, is that the only thing, or is there something else that goes into making the value or assigning the value to this property? Is it just what this guy submits? Does it have to do with what the town thinks properties are worth in this climate?
This is Ross, we use the income and expense statements from all the properties that we gather to develop market rent, market vacancy, and market expenses. We look at the individual to understand what may be happening with the individual property, but we don't use their individual I&E to develop a value for that specific property. It's done by looking at what all these types of properties are generating for rent and expenses and vacancy.
Okay, so it's not, so it's like an average. It's not an individual one. Like, for example, this guy, like on the last appeal, if he had a 50% vacancy rate when he handed in his paperwork, that's not how it's really done.
Right, we look at what the market is showing for vacancy in each type of property. We look at the individual I&E to kind of understand if there's something going on with that particular one and whether it needs to be, considered a better property or a lesser property.
Okay.
But we don't, when we're doing the revaluation, we don't just take their I&E and value their property.
Okay. All right,
This is Harold. I'm sorry, Paulette, you wanted to continue?
oh, that's good. Done.
This is Harold. I want to say that the vacancies are a factor of the rentals that people want to charge, the leasing terms, what other properties are around that might suit the potential renter or lessee's needs. So, it's not necessarily the fault of the marketplace if a property is unoccupied. It's sometimes a combination of that and the terms or costs that price that the owner puts on that property. So I think that the vacancy factor is based upon a lot of things, not just the COVID situation, which can turn around tomorrow. Okay, so if there's
That also has to do with the deferred maintenance because he doesn't have a tenant in order to pay for it. So
I can't determine that because I don't know what his income is from the existing tenants. All right. Any further discussion, or I'll call this a vote?
This is Paula. No, I just wanted to finish up my thoughts by saying that I understand what you're saying, Harold, and there is validity to that. However, we really shouldn't look at, well, that could change tomorrow because everything's opening up, because the residential market could drop tomorrow because people are back to work and there isn't so much a demand for housing here. They're going to stay in New York or whatever. We can't really look at what can happen today or tomorrow. At the time this was done, this was this guy's conditions, and that's what we have to look at. And you're right. Sometimes the vacancy rate has to do with the rent that they're going to charge or the conditions that they want the tenant to perform under. But in this climate, I really have to think that it's more the COVID than anything. It's everywhere. It's in every state. I can't imagine that it's not happening here too.
Well, yes, this is Harold. It's certainly happening in New York City, that's for sure, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I understand the comments. I'd like to call a vote. All those in favor of granting this appeal to the requested amount, please raise your hand. I have 2 in favor. Opposed, please raise your hand. I have 3 opposed. The motion does not carry. The appeal is not granted. The vote is 2 in favor, 3 opposed. Judy and Paulette are in favor. The motion is not granted. Appeal is not granted. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Let's go to appeal number 237. This is Luigi Center LLC. The property is located at 170 Post Road. And the owner is Luigi Gensanti. He came with his real estate broker. Town's value is at $860,000. The appellant's opinion of fair market value is $750,000. And I make a motion to grant the appellant's opinion of fair market value is $750,000. Is there a second?
Catherine will second.
Thank you. This is a restaurant. And there's problems with parking. The parking is absolutely limited here, and then we have deferred maintenance, including a roof. And he is asking for some relief from the town. This is, there again, we're looking at take a look at the pictures that are here. I think these were some of the same as the other ones. This might have been, these properties were all pretty much adjoining. They're pretty close. But the thing is like, he's got issues here. I mean, we're not giving this guy any relief. Why is this so difficult? I'm just wondering. I know you guys are like, where's his income and expense? You know, he's not asking for the world for anything here. And he clearly has properties that need improvement. And once he does whatever improvements, you can, and he gets his permits, you can be able to change that again. But right now, or as of October 1, 2020, we had issues. The gross rental income has decreased since during 2020. And we all know commercial property has not increased. So, Paulette, you wanted to say something?
I think one of the big problems for that building is the parking. Even though there's a strip mall behind it, if you ever gone there, it's not so easy to find a parking space. And you can't really park on the post road; it's too busy. So he has a serious parking issue. And I guess I want to ask Russ just to help my understanding. Russ, when you look at when these get revalued, do you look at the difference between, say, a freestanding building that has a parking lot and one that doesn't? Does that change the value at all?
This is Ross. We look at the rental income. That tells us what the market is willing to pay for that, regardless of what parking situation or any of the other factors that may be visible. We look at what the tenant's paying, what tenants are paying.
So it's not really paying. He owns the building and he runs the restaurant, so there's not really a rental thing there, like his income. But
this is Harold. Oh, go ahead, Paulette.
No, I was just going to say it just doesn't seem to make sense when you're valuing properties to look at something like this, which is different than a place where you're renting out different offices, and to say, well, okay, this one's in this condition in this spot, but there's no parking. But the one across the street is the same condition, but it's got a parking space for 25 people. If you were going to sell that property, the one with the parking lot is going to be much more valuable to the person buying it, just simply for the parking. foot traffic is better. So that's why I was asking if that is considered when they value the properties.
This is Harold. This is Harold. This is a popular restaurant. I've eaten there many times. I've parked in front of the restaurant on the post road. It does have parking space in the rear and alongside, even before you get to the adjacent shopping center, which is also owned by the appellant. So they're not going to preclude anybody from parking there, obviously. It's a very popular restaurant. It gets a good crowd. It's always busy when I'm there. They do a tremendous takeout business as well. I would say that if the town has created a valuation for this property based upon income and rentals and comparable rentals of similar properties in the area, I don't see that the appellant has produced any significant argument to grant this type of reduction. There's no documentation as to what the improvements might cost that we could consider. It's just some pictures that are sent and whatever comments Judy may have received. So I'm ready to vote on this unless there's any further discussion or opinions. Okay, I'll call a vote. All those in favor of granting this appeal to the requested value, please raise your hand. I have 2 in favor. Opposed? 3 opposed. The appeal is not granted. It is denied. The vote is 2 in favor, 3 opposed, no abstentions. Judy and Paulette in favor, and 3 opposed.
Thank you, everyone. Let's go to appeal number 238.
Is this the same guy? Because otherwise we could just skip over and just not just vote to deny it.
Well, you know what, Paulette? Yeah, it's the same guy, and I'm going to make the motion. And since we don't have whatever rental, if it's going to go the same way, we might as well save time. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, because I was, boy, you must have read my mind. All right. Appeal number 238, property owner is Luigi Center LLC. The property location is 173 Post Road. The appellant came with his mortgage broker. The town's value of the property is $1,355,000. The appellant's opinion of fair market value is $975,000. And I make a motion that we approve the appellant's opinion of fair market value of $975,000. Is there a second?
Catherine will second.
Thank you.
Any discussion on this property? Then I'll call a vote. All those in favor of granting this appeal to the requested value, please raise your hand. I have 2 in favor. Opposed? 3 opposed. The appeal is not granted. The vote is 2 in favor, 3 opposed. Paulette and Judy.
Uh-oh, we lost Harold. He's going to come back.
Oh,
Give him a minute. There he is.
There I am. Oh, maybe it was me, just me. Okay, I'm back.
Great. Thanks for the warning. All right. Can I do a few more? Is that okay, everybody?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. This is appeal number 541. And the property owner's name is 1375 Kings Highway LLC, Abbey Road Advisors. Town's value is $6,755,300. The appellant's opinion of fair market value is $5,500,000. And I move that we grant the appellant's opinion of fair market value of $5,500,000. Have a second?
This is Harold. I'll second.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's see, hold on. If you look, he actually, so he supplied some information here. I think it was page, I'm gonna get to it. I printed it out, but it's on page 10. So he's actually giving you this and his net operating income. And he's showing you his potential gross revenue, vacancy and collection loss of 15%. I'm going to plead where normally I think this might be a little outside of, what I would normally want to talk about. This guy, they actually pleaded with us to work with them and not deny it and make them go to Superior Court. They said, please just work with us on this, please. He was very nice about it. He said, please do what you can for us. The cost to maintain the tenants is very expensive. And it's just pleased to help them reduce that tax burden. So really, 4.8, I would go with that. I'd go with that. I know that building. I will tell you why I know that building, because I did some rentals there, leases there many years ago. So I know the building. And it's got it's just a little obsolete, it's got a little bit of obsolescence going on with that. So I would definitely work with them.
This is Harold. I will ask Ross, as Judy stated, they are asking the board to consider a different value that the town has on it. Have they approached the assessor's office to discuss the valuations and to ask the assessor's office to reconsider its valuation?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what appeal number? 332?
541.
This is Kathleen. I do see that they did have an informal hearing back in January on, if you look at the field card on 118. So they did speak with Chris Kieran. Is this building near the train station? It's right on, right? A little confused. I didn't map it yet. It looks like those are the new apartment complexes in the back. So this is like the Commerce Drive, Kings Highway sort of area.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The BJ's and all of that. All right. And they also appealed the apartment buildings, I believe, right? The same broker, right? Or same representative.
Does that make a difference?
No, the name sounded familiar to me, so I'm just trying to place why they're familiar.
Yeah, this is Ross. Just back to the original question. No, I have not been contacted.
They had an informal hearing and nothing happened at the informal hearing. Kathleen?
Kathleen, looking at the card, it says no change in formal hearing 1/18/2021. So it does not look like, and looking at the assessment history, right, we can usually see a reduction from the middle column to the left column. I don't see that, I don't see that anything was done at the informal.
What can we do to help them? I haven't had anybody for all the appeals that I did, and I heard, I think, 27, 28? How many commercial appeals did I have, or did I have more than that? But I think maybe I had 40. I don't know, but I had a lot. These were the only people that said, please work with us. And we had other properties. They didn't plead like they did with this one. Mm-hmm. Although the one that I was at with the occupancy and we didn't do anything about it, I felt really badly for them. Because that should have been handled too. But let's do something for them instead of denying them, make them go to court. Let's do something for them.
I'm trying to look at what
on the last page, Judy, so I'm not ignoring you. There's just a lot of numbers here, so I'm taking it all in. Just give me another couple of minutes to look through their numbers, if you don't mind.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you looking.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm just working these numbers in the back.
Paula, do you have anything to add?
Wait, no, I'm interested to see what Catherine comes up with, and she's the numbers person in the group, I think. So I'm waiting to hear what she has to say.
The CPA in the group, yes.
Well, no, I'm just, trying to absorb. So I just feel like it was hard for me to get any numbers from the previous appeal. So, that's why I kind of had to deny, because I'd give them the option to come back with numbers. They certainly tried here with their working. And what I like is I was able to talk to a bunch of, a couple of different type of appraisals. So I'm interested to see that they're all pretty similar in the numbers that they use and so forth. So I get, I have a little more comfort because of the appeals that I heard and the appraisals that were being done. I don't really think they're asking like work with us. I think they're showing that, this is the rent that they get. And these are the cap rates, and this is how they're looking at loading the cap rates for the realtor. So, quote, if we trust, and why would we not trust that these are their income and expense numbers? I mean, their value using the cap rates is less than what they are asking for. So that, I think they seem to be reasonable on that. I'm not really sure how they came up with their number. They could have gone lower. So I give them credit for that. So those are my thoughts right now. Spouting. Yes,
Thank you,
Harold?
Catherine.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. Oh, no, go ahead.
This is Harold. Ross, are these the numbers that the assessor's office has used to do the valuations?
I'd have to pull their income and expense and see. I can do that.
Okay. And meanwhile, Kathleen, you had a question or comment?
Ms. Kathleen, there's just no date on the columns. Are they saying that this is their base rental revenue as of this year, last year? Like what's the?
Kathleen, if you look at the top, it says 10/1/2020.
Right, so that's their handwriting. So that would be, so they did their rent from 10/1/2020 to 10/1/2019, their year one annual.
This is
I'm trying
Harold.
to figure out what numbers they're presenting.
That's why.
Not that I'm qualified to, I'm not to understand it. So.
This is Harold. That's why I asked Ross to check.
And I believe they go out right? We're trying to look at what it's going to look like for 5 years, not just for 1 year, because when they get a reduction, they get the reduction for 5. So I don't know how we look at a 1 year annual to know what their 5-year projected is going to be.
Well, if you want to do a 5-year projected, I would bet it's going to be less.
Do we have, I mean, they're appealing something that happened now. Are they supposed to hand us something that says they're projecting for 5 years? Or is that just our idea?
This is Kathleen. I think that's how they sort of looked at when Chris Kieran in his presentation spoke about how he gave reductions and how he reviewed people's, the commercial appeals. I believe he sort of said, okay, well, how long is it going to take this business to recover? What kind of business is this? Is it going to be down for sure for 4 years? Is it just going to bump back up quickly? Is there other things going on? So I believe I'd have to go back and listen because it's been about a month or so before I heard him before when he was in front of the Board of Finance. But I seem to think that's sort of what he said he looked at. So I believe, we don't just look at 1 year for these. For the real estate, we're sort of, capturing market value as of October 1st, 2020. For these guys, I don't think, because it's based on income and expense and potential rent and all those other kinds of things. I just think they're way more complicated than saying this is a snapshot of what we look like on this business looked like on October 1st, 2020. But I'm not an expert, Catherine. He knows a lot more and Ross does too.
Either. And Judy, I will defer to you as the hearing officer, and then I'll put in my 2 cents.
I'm like, wait a minute. And this is supposed to be valued on October 1, 2020. And now we're changing the rules and it's like the projected income because I never knew that everything else was on projected income. Have
Well,
you
you-
told every single commercial appellant and then 10-1 valuation is on the next 5 years? Or
Yeah,
would
I
you
think
tell them that it was on October 1st?
Ross can answer that, but I think commercials are looked at differently because they're based on income and expense and not just on, on revenue streams and not just on, the unless you're doing a comparable sale analysis, what it's sold for. But I think they do them differently.
This is Howard. I'd like to wait until we have a response from Ross. If the information that was provided by the appellant is the same information that the town used for its valuation.
This is Paulette.
Yep, this is Ross. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ross. What I was going to say was, I agree with you, Harold, we should wait. But also what I was going to say to comment on Judy's response, yes, I'm having the same issue that you're having. All of a sudden now, it's a 5-year projection. We're in the middle of doing these. How many have we done? And we never spoke about that before. Now, all of a sudden, we're speaking about it. Can't do that. If we haven't done it all along, then we shouldn't be doing it now. It was our mistake. And if we are doing it from the beginning, then we keep doing it. You can't keep we've been saying this over and over again.
Okay, let's not go there for now. Let's hear what Ross has to say.
So I'm comparing his income and expense to what he's provided, and it's comparable except for 2 items that are on his provided information, and that's the 2 amortized lines under expenses, amortized TIs and amortized LCs. I quite frankly, I'm not sure what that is. And, other than those 2 lines, I would say that the information is comparable.
Okay.
So this is Kathleen. So Ross, can you speak to that, how we value then the commercial properties, 5 years versus 1 year? Do we only look at a snapshot for now? Or I was under the impression we sort of try to figure out how they're going to look for 5 years. Did I misunderstand that or?
I wouldn't say it was 5 years. That's not how I would say it. It's investors, when they're buying a property, are looking at the revenue stream over a holding period. So that, that's how you would come up with a value today. Let's look at a vacant building. If a building is vacant, because let's say it's brand new, it doesn't have 0 value because it's generating no income. So an investor may say, what's this property going to produce over 20 years? And they would do their analysis on that. And that, that type of analysis is called the discounted cash flow. So they would estimate the revenues and expenses over 20 years, what's the residual value of the property, and bring that back to today's dollars. So it is over a holding period. So it's not just the rents today, it's what's that property going to produce as a revenue stream over time.
Okay, and so how did you look at it? Do you look at it the same way when you're valuing these properties, or Chris Kieran did? Or does he just?
Yeah, we use the current market rents, and what are the vacancies that we're seeing, and are they going to continue for the long term, or is this just a short term change? A building may have a typical vacancy rate of 10%, but on the revaluation year, maybe they lost a couple of tenants and now they're this year at 20. Well, that's not the typical for the building. So you want to look at what's this building going to do over the long term, over a holding period of, say, 10, 20 years.
Oh, so now we're evaluating it 10, 20 years from now instead of today. I mean, this is really, I don't get.
I have said this before. I have said the same thing multiple times in prior meetings.
Well, Kathleen is just bringing this up that now we have to redo, now we have to look at everything. This is different. I don't recall this from any other commercial properties.
And Ross, you might have said it, but maybe it didn't ring true to us because we're not looking at it that way. We're not the ones assessing the property. So we're not saying you didn't say it. I think what Judy just said was that this, now it's coming up now the members are bringing it up. We didn't decide on the other way in our group. So it's just confusing.
And Catherine said, you know what, based upon Catherine, who is a CPA, I really trust what she says, like, hey, they could have asked for less. The next 5 years, and they didn't, the next 5 years are not going to be pleasant for any of these commercial office buildings. They're not. Go ahead, Catherine.
A couple of random comments. One, I believe that the numbers that Ross was saying, he wasn't quite sure what those are. I think I think they would really relate to what I'll call as an accountant, like depreciation in the layman's terms, but it's also the cash flow investment that you kind of need to put in every year. So TI would be the depreciation for the taxable improvements, and then the LCs would be the leasehold costs, which are usually like the accommodations. Okay, like somebody comes in and wants an office, but then they want to upgrade the cable system, or they want to upgrade, can you include this? So those are the costs that you would put in so that you could rent your property. And, he's basically he's got some taxable improvements that he's just it's $5 a square foot a year. He knows he's just got to put that into the property to maintain it. It's not the deferred maintenance. And the other expense, the leasehold costs, are probably, specific to the tenants. I think he mentioned that, hey, these guys are wanting more. It's becoming more expensive to lease because tenants are more demanding on what they want. So, it's a soft cost of depreciation, but like, the properties that I always have a capital reserve because something's always going to give out. So that's kind of what they're investing. So I do take it more as a smooth cash flow investment in the property versus, a really soft cost that they're just estimating. So that would be one. And two, the whole thing about like the timing and all that, I've got to say, like, I'm hesitant when people come in and say, hey, the landlords are saying COVID was a really bad year, and this is what I should be valued at for the next 5 years. So I'm kind of like an in-between between what Ross is saying, Kathleen is saying, and Harold was saying, like, hey, it could change next year. I did find from the appeals that I heard, the more developing investors, the ones who were totally commercial, much more than the property owners themselves, they were like, hey, COVID's been bad, but these are the numbers I have to use. They were using numbers, not cash that bad year. So that's where I go with it. These guys, again, not saying, hey, COVID was really bad. They're just saying this is what our income is projected for the next few years. Okay, I'm done.
Wait a minute. Catherine, you made me think of something. So while COVID is good for the town on the residential properties, and COVID is not good for the commercial properties, we're dismissing that? It's better for the town? I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to like an overall view, because that's what it's been. We compare residential to commercial. That's what I'm saying. COVID has actually helped the town. And when it comes to the commercial, where it is hurting the commercial, it's not an argument.
I don't know that it's an argument for valuing the property for the town. I think
they didn't make this an argument. I'm just telling you, and we all know, they didn't cry COVID. They didn't cry that. They talked about their occupancy, and it's, from almost 50%. I mean, increase in value is 50%. Really? Go ahead, Harold.
This is Harold. I would not want to say that COVID was good for the town. We've lost a couple of hundred Fairfield residents. If you're referring to
I didn't mean it that way, Harold, but thank you.
I know, but I just want to say, if you're referring to the valuations of the properties having gone up, because of the market value increasing based upon sales. That may be the case, but I don't know that that is necessarily good or bad for the town. It's the fact as it is. Now,
And this is a fact too.
yeah, and I understand what you're saying about this person coming in and certainly pleading that we consider his opinion of value. But I think that every petitioner is pretty much pleading for their opinion of value. So we've heard a number of arguments.
Oh, there is one thing that I gotta say.
Yes.
And I don't know why I didn't mention it, but I'm looking at my notes, and when he came in, he said he requested 4,800,000 as opposed to the 5.5 that was here.
Okay.
He wanted to change it, and I don't see that here, and I'm looking at my notes and I see it. So maybe we could just give him.
Say that again, Judy, sorry, it was 4, because I like to, and in the minutes.
4,800,000.
4,800,000. Kathy, just make sure Kathy gets that.
4,800,000.
So this Carl, do you wish to make a friendly amendment to change the opinion of a fair market value by the appellant to 4,800,000?
Yes. Do I need to state that? I'll make a friendly amendment to appeal number 541 to the price of 4,800,000. Is there a second?
Okay.
This is Kathleen, you don't need, it's just in other words, we're not going to make an amendment.
Okay.
It's just going to
Okay.
be that should we record it as if you had said 4,800,000 in the first place, and it was just misspoken.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
We're all in agreement. That's.
I have a.
Yes, Judy.
Were you going to say if there's no further discussion, can we call a vote? Were you about to say that, Harold?
Yes, we spent a lot of time on this one, and I think that we want to try to do as many of the commercial and other properties as we can in these morning sessions, given the fact that.
We're going really quickly, and we're going to go really quickly after this. So I have a question for the board. I'd like to take a reading as to whether how people are feeling on the 4,800,000. If not, how does everybody feel about the 4,800,000? Just random. Yes, Catherine.
Catherine?
That was a big jump in the cap rate. I mean, he was supporting that, but that is at its the highest 9%, not the typical 7.5 or loaded percentage at 8, which was coming up to it.
Thank you.
So
I have a question.
Yeah, I think the 9% that's a little that, and he says that's a high range, and that's what he went for. So I
what
like.
What about the 5.5?
Well, I mean, his analysis on his end page ranged from at 8%, it was 5.1. And then he went to 9% for the 4.5. So he was trying in there at the 8.5, but I was seeing some things for maybe even 7.5. So the 5.5, I liked that better. Of course, I would like that better. It's conservative for the.
Suppose I was to say, I'd like to grant in part to 5,500,000. After would you second that?
Kathleen, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to make a comment first. I'm just going to say it's a 25,000 square foot commercial building. If we hadn't elected to hear these in the first place, we wouldn't even be probably talking about it unless they had decided to come before us anyway. So I just know I'm not qualified nor comfortable to do these really large commercial properties. I'm okay when the ones that, if it's a small person with a small business building and they show us some, comparable sales and a very simple income and expense statement. And Ross can help us with those. I'm confident that, my vote, that this person is aggrieved, and I can vote confidently in that. I can't vote confidently that this person is aggrieved. I can't do it. The numbers are big. It's a complicated business. His rent, so I would vote no, probably no matter what the dollar amount was, just because, unless there were some other extenuating circumstances. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't support a change just because I'm not comfortable with these big ones. I'm just not.
Paulette, I see your hand up.
Yes, I'm the first one to say that we shouldn't be doing these big ones. But I was not involved in the vote when it was voted to do them. So if you voted to hear them, it had to be with the idea that we were going to try to settle try to either come up with an answer to grant them or not grant them. Now to say, well, I'm not comfortable. Well, we should never have been comfortable with them because we shouldn't have been doing them, but we are. The fact is we are. We can't change that. Now, Catherine's an accountant. I certainly trust and have respect for her information, her decisions. If she's saying that this seems and it's been explained, I have no problem voting for the 555 because we have somebody who's qualified and I trust to give us the numbers and to tell us that these look good. She looked them over, which I have respect for that. Unlike when we do the appraisals and no one believes what the realtors say. I believe Catherine's right and I'm willing to vote for it.
I'd like to make a motion to grant in part to the 5,500,000. Catherine, did you second that?
I will
We
second
have
that.
to call a vote on that?
You're-
Can you,
Kathleen, Kathleen, you were speaking, but you were on mute.
Yeah, no, I just said, yes, we do. If we're going to change it from the 4.8, we do need to make an amendment to the 5.5.
We do have a motion by Judy and seconded by Catherine. All those in favor of granting the
In favor of the amendment.
amendment to $5,500,000 valuation on this property, please raise your hand. I have 3 in favor, opposed. 2 opposed. The motion to amend is granted to $5,500,000. Now, going back to the original motion, all those in favor of granting this appeal to the amended value of $5,500,000, please raise your hand. Opposed? The motion is carried. The appeal is granted to $5,500,000 with Kathleen and Harold opposed.
thank you very much. And thank you for your expertise, Catherine. Really appreciate it.
Hope it's not inflated is where I'm going, but they've walked us through it. I think Paulette makes it valid. If we said that we were going to, we can't discuss them for a half hour and then say we're not going to vote. But thank you. And Paulette, I hope I haven't led us down a dangerous road, but I thought thank you.
I think your number knowledge is perfect. I don't think you let us down a dangerous road.
All right, I would, let's talk about appeal number 40. I just got to find it here. Where is it? Oh, 130, I'm sorry. It's appeal number 130. Where are we? Okay. The property owner's name is Fairfield Theaters. Property location is at 40 Black Rock Turnpike. The town's opinion, town's value is $6,558,700. The appellant's opinion of fair market value is $2,500,000. I'd like to make a motion to grant the appellant's opinion of fair market value of $2,500,000.
This is Harold. I'll second.
Okay. That's the old movie theater, guys. That's a tough one because I don't have any supporting documentation here. And if you use the income approach, it's going to be absolutely wrong because we're not going to get another movie theater in there. And there's nothing going on there. They closed the cinema in March 16th of 2020. The decision was made not to reopen it. They're looking at a possible redevelopment or tear down. So, if what are you supposed to do with that? What are you supposed to do with that? And we all driven past there. It's right near BJ's.
This is Harold. Ross, did they approach the assessor's office?
They have not come to me, no.
Okay.
This is Paul, and I have a question. Can they approach Ross? I mean, there's only a certain time of year when you're allowed to do this. So, I mean, would they even think to approach him to ask him what to do, to ask for some help or some relief? I thought we couldn't do that.
Well, that's what we're here for, though, Paulette.
What? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, that's what we're doing. That's
Right.
what
No,
they're
no,
here.
I meant,
That's what.
I thought he meant before, like before we did this. You know, has anybody gone to Ross and said, "Can you help me out here"? Maybe I misunderstood.
No, this is Harold.
No, I cannot, right, this is Ross. I can't make a change to the 20 grand list. That has to go through the board at this point. But, they can reach out to me, anybody can reach out to me during the year, and I can make changes to 21. And if the BA is still happening, I can certainly, make a recommended change.
This is Harold. In other words, anyone can approach the assessor's office to discuss their evaluation, whether or not you're right, Paulette, depending on the timing, and when the board is meeting, they may be able to make a change or may not. And then it falls into our lap. So that's true. Okay. Obviously, they hired an attorney to present because they don't want to pay the taxes since the business is not operating currently, and there may be some plans in the future for it. But I think that I would not know how to judge any other valuation for this property, and if the number that they gave is the appropriate number. So unless does anybody else have some comments on this?
I agree with you, Harold. I mean, there's just not enough there to even discuss. So,
Harold, call the vote.
Okay, all those in favor of granting this appeal to the requested value, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Abstentions? The vote is 0-4-1. 0-4-1, is that correct? Yes, with Judy abstaining. Thank you. The appeal is not granted.
Moving right along.
Well, that's the plan.
Well, yeah, we're doing it. Okay, this is appeal number 132. Property owner's name is International Investors. This is a Stop and Shop. Property address is 1160 Kings Highway Cutoff. Town's value of $13,723,400, because we can't skip that 400. And the fair market, appellate's opinion of fair market value is $10 million. And I make a motion that we approve the appellant's opinion of fair market value of $10 million. Is there a second?
Catherine will second.
Any discussion? Any comments? All those in favor of granting this appeal to the requested value, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. I have 4 opposed. Paulette? Are
Opposed.
you opposed? It's unanimous. The vote is 0-5-0. It's unanimous. The appeal is not granted. Thank you.
Does
Okay.
Judy, how many appeals you got? I'm just wondering. I'm just like,
Oh, all right. Why don't you give me a break, and then I have, what do I have? 1, 2,
But you're also on a roll, so you want to take it to 11 or so, or
3, 4.
anybody else?
I really have 5. 6. I have 7, but you know, what time is it? 10:20? You know what? Let me give somebody else a chance instead of being a hog, okay?
We're not a hog because we're all getting through it and we're all here for each other. But I have a few that might, support what you said, so they're kind of in tandem type things.
So
And
yeah,
Kath-
go ahead. Go ahead.
Does anybody else have any commercial that they want? Kathleen?
We've got today and tomorrow morning, assuming everybody's still good with the 2 days.
Right.
So I'm hoping we can get them all done in 20, in today and
Right.
tomorrow. So
But I try. I'll throw in a few. Give me a half hour and let's see what we can get done, and then
Yeah.
I'll toss the ball back. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try appeal 127. Okay. 127 is at 14 Sanford Street, which is right in downtown, across from the gazebo, that corner building.
I'm not seeing it. Wait a minute.
Appeal 127.
Maybe I'll go to master log because I'm not even seeing on here.
yeah, sorry, this is Kathleen. I resent the sheet. I had taken both you and Catherine off the sheet by mistake. I fixed all the real estate ones when I sent it out. Remember, did you change the filter for yours and show yours, or this morning I sent it out?
No.
Okay, yeah. My bad. I didn't.
They're all
do the
up
full
there on
filter.
I can't find this. I can't find it. So I need to like close out and reopen.
I sent an updated sheet last night and then the commercial tab is right. Did you get it? I'm trying to see what time I sent it. They're all just filters, but
This is Harold. You can also go to the master log and just select
Yeah.
one.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. It's 127.
yeah.
127.
So it's right near the top.
Oh, okay. When I look at the master log, it only goes to my stuff.
Oh, that's because you probably put
so
a
I don't-
filter on your stuff to take the filter off.
I did not put a filter on, Kathleen. No.
Okay.
I like to
So,
use.
so I need to log out and log back in?
Can you call up the one that I sent last night? I sent the second
Okay,
sheet.
so then I'm gonna have to log, all right.
Let
Give
me,
me a moment.
Yeah, I sent it at 10:23 last night. Sorry, I didn't have the commercial appeals correct. It has now Catherine's and Judy's on commercial on it. I sent
Yeah,
it.
you know what, Kathleen, at 10:23 to send out like the schedule for 9 a.m.
Nope,
that's
I
like-
sent it out. I get it. They're on there. So, but all right, I'll re-forward it to you again. I agree. I didn't realize it till you texted me last night that I missed them. So, and I was out last night.
This is Harold. While that is taking place, I'd like to point out that on page 10 of this document, there's a misfiled document.
Where is it? I'll have to open with the preview. Page 10. Nope, that's not a misfile. It is the basis for this gentleman's appeal. Well, I don't know if Judy, can you still hear?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm uploading it. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Give me a second,
Well,
please.
Yeah. Now this sheet should be in order by person. So when you go to Catherine's, hers are in appeal number order under her name.
There you go. Wait a minute. 127. I got it.
Got it?
And
Okay.
30 seconds and I will be right back, okay?
Okay. So Kathleen, if you want to take in some condos, are they not on that list?
The condos are on a separate sheet. So the condos are on the condo sheet. I kind of broke them out because we've been sort of deliberating on them differently. Yeah. So there's single family, condo.
Are they accessible to everybody who wants to do the
Yeah,
work?
Judy, you guys should be able to see the condos too. Yeah.
But I'm going to start with a
You
couple
do some,
of,
I'm
I'm going to start with the
commercials. Yeah, that'd be helpful.
I am back.
Oh, you were missed.
Onward and upward.
This is appeal number 127 for 14 Sanford Street, owned by Mary Burke and her life estate. Her son was the appellant, William Burke, and the town has the property valued, and I'd like to make a motion to reduce the value from $1,262,400 to a requested value of $1 million. Couple of points of his.
Oh, you need a second. You need a second before we go.
You're right. And
This
Judy's.
is Harold. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Judy.
Any of us? Judy.
So a couple of things, but his basic argument was that he has this property and he took the sale of the Fairfield Community Theater, so that's why that is in the packet. He took that per square footage basis and applied it to his own property. That was the one argument. The second argument is that in 1994, the appraisal had usable square footage at a little over 4,900, while the town envision has the property at 5,800 square feet. However, when we discussed, well, who's in they're renting, he has 4 retail clients and 5 offices. And so when you did those numbers of the 9 units, the 5,800 seemed kind of more in line than the 4,900. But be that as it may, if we were doing it all on a square footage basis, I'd be more concerned. It's that he valued property.
Oh.
Right.
Excuse me, I think that may mean that we're disconnected from the WebEx.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's right. Yeah, smart.
This is Ron. I'm going to run upstairs and see what happened with
This is Kathy. Yeah,
Kathy.
Kathy just texted me, hold up, the free call went down. So she lost the,
Let's just hold off until we reconnect.
Judy, you should have stayed with you. Look, at nothing but problems since he started. Nothing but problems.
All right, I'm still here. That's the problem.
We're on a roll. Everybody find your appeals.
Harold's service, your service is a little off today, Harold.
Mine
I
is.
notice, yeah, yours is.
Well, I'm wired in.
I see your, yeah, I see the little circle going every once in a while on your.
yeah, something else might be using your bandwidth, or else you're just, it's daytime versus evening.
I'm plugged in, so it's not the Wi-Fi.
Uh-oh, wow, look at this.
It's not Eric
Maybe it's mine.
videos.
Yeah, no, I see it too, and Judy's going in and out for me as well.
All 4 of you went out for
Me too.
about 5 seconds. Oh, maybe, is that part of, from the town, possibly?
What I'm wondering if it's, since it's a town WebEx account, right? I don't know if that's part of it.
Uh-oh. Should we all log out and then start up again?
So that's them.
This is Harold. I don't know if it's our issue. Ross is working with Kathy to see if he can get it restarted.
Why don't we we take a 10-minute break?
I think it's back on now.
Music,
Oh, okay.
I'll try the line.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna make myself a cup of coffee, so just call me back. I'm gonna be a few feet away.
Harold, why don't we take a 15-minute break and let Ross get all set for us?
Sure. 15-minute break. Back at 10:45.
Why did it upload?
Goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you. Because it's not being recorded, I guess.
Oh, I would just start the
The recording has started.
And this one's still being recorded.
That's still going, yeah, and then just mute them.
All participants are muted.
No, it's me.
Okay. I think we're good.
I'm just not exactly sure when it dropped. I think I got all of 132 and they were having discussion before 127. So
Yeah, I don't think they've even started that one.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Hello?
Kathy, is that you?
Yes.
We decided, because there were these terrible sound effects going on, so we've taken a break until 10:45.
Okay, thank you.
So, and we figured you'd have it all taken care of by then, and you do. So that's where we are. Get a coffee.
So how long are you breaking for?
It's 15 minutes. I think we'll be back by 10:45.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
The recording has started.
This is Harold Zawatsky, Chair of the Fairfield Board of Assessment Appeals. It is now 10:46 a.m. on Monday, April 26th, and we are reconvening our meeting for discussions and deliberations on appeals brought before the board. Thank you. So I believe, Catherine, you were going to discuss an appeal?
So
Are we-
we'll pick up 127, and I'll just repeat a little bit, so that we get it. So appeal number 127, 14 Sanford Street in Fairfield, downtown Fairfield, across from the gazebo there. Property owner is Mary Burke and her life estate. It is a mixed commercial use, retail and office. And her son, William, has requested I will make a motion to reduce the town's value of $1,262,400 to a fair market value of $1 million. Do I have a second? I believe Judy did second it first time around. Will you second it again, Judy, just for the record?
I will second it again, yes.
Thank you, because I'm not sure what got recorded or not before. Okay, so the gentleman's main argument is that the Fairfield Community Theater sold at a per square footage price, and he would like to value his property at that same square footage price, as well as debating the actual square footage of the building based on an appraisal that was done for the purchase in the early 90s, I want to say 1994. So the early appraisal had usable square footage of 4,938, and the town has square footage of the entire building at 5,800 square feet. So based on that, there was no income reported, there was no financial analysis or income statements provided, there were no cap rates used. That is all the information that we have. So I do find it difficult to support the value of the building based on a square footage of a adjoining building. He does have 4 retail units and 5 offices. They're all small. They're all about 700 square feet. But those 9 rentals, he's done a great job of keeping renters in there and kind of a diversity of industries. So he's done a good job. Does anybody have any questions or need more information?
Just to clarify, this is the, in the rear of the building of another building that faces the post road. So it's all on Sanford Street. The 2 retails are downstairs and
It goes to the post road. He does have post road footage. He's just, the picture that's on the field card there is Party used to be there, but I think a new shoe store is going in. And is it Moda Capelli on the corner? That is his as well.
So this is Harold. So there's more than just 2 retail spaces. Is that correct?
4 retail and 5 offices up on the second floor.
4 retail, okay. Because I believe that the card said something about 2 retail spaces.
He discussed 4 retail and 5 offices. It says 2 stories. Yep, I don't.
So this is Harold again. So it does have retail space on the post road.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any further comments or discussion? If not, I'll call a vote. All those in favor of granting this appeal to the requested value, please raise your hand. Opposed, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. The appeal is not granted, is denied. The vote is 0-5-0. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, I also have appeal, so let me close that one. Appeal 315. It's for 187 Kings Highway LLC, also known to commoners as the Lexus dealership. The owner was there as well as, wait, did I call up the right one? Yes, I'm sorry, my bad. The appellant was Jeffrey Zelani, who appeared with the owner of 187 Kings Highway Cutoff. I'd like to make a request to grant, to reduce the town's value from $1,686,500 to an amount amended by the owner of $1,488,400. Do I have a second?
Second. I'll second. This is Harold.
Harold. Okay, so there was a professional appraisal there. We discussed the property. It has been rented by the Lexus dealership for quite some time now. They have a 5-year lease with options to renew. They've been there since 1997. Their current lease will expire in 2026. So what I found very interesting, I said, well, why did you go up and what did he have? And he said, well, Lexus actually has a pretty good deal there, and it's not really fair to do just the rents that they're collected. The appraisal that he then prepared used a market rate in the contract rate because the market rate was slightly higher than the contract. If he had not used that, if he had used the contract, I asked him what the valuation would have been, and it would have been just under $1.2 million. But he said that a professional appraisal would, and that is based on the contract gross lease annually of $130,000. The taxes and insurance are on the owner. And so the professional appraisal would use that type of space. It's $21 a square foot, 7% cap rate with the real estate load of like almost 1.8%. So they're looking for close to an 8.8 all in. And that's where they come up with their $1,488,388, which we rounded to 400. So, and we then actually had a discussion about the rest of, and while it's more information for the rest of our appeals, he was very forthcoming and he thought that the Fairfield commercial rates were the best. And because they have continually supported small incremental owners versus the big box chains. So he says it's actually the strongest, one of the strongest investment areas for this type of, so I thought that was a good sign for Fairfield. Okay, and so that's what we have here. Can I answer any other questions? Do you want to go through? That's how he came up with his numbers. Yes, Harold.
Yes, just for clarification, this is the Lexus built property that's on, that is the used car facility, not across the street where they do the repairs, the service center?
That is correct. He did make that very clear that this is not, there aren't repairs being done on it. And it's kind of not a great lot for other uses because of where it is and the parking situation and so forth. So he feels it's, basically being used at its highest and best use. And he does, not only does he have an analysis of the economic valuation, he does put in the annual income and expense report. And then if you follow a little further down, you can see where all his numbers kind of go in and out.
And again, this is Harold. So Catherine, based upon the information you gathered at the hearing and the information provided, do you feel that the fair market opinion of the appellant is supported?
I do, yes.
So this is Kathleen, a couple questions. They said they had an appraisal, but I don't see it in the backup. Catherine, they give you a copy of the appraisal, or where is the professional?
I think that's what he came in. Jeff Zeleny was the professional appraisal, and he walked me through all these numbers and so forth. I think they were added in, like you can see there's something with I didn't have, I should call it up on preview so I can give you a page number, but all these analyses that are in here in the charts, that's part of the appraisal. You don't get a handy dandy with all pictures like a residential. I did not.
Okay, so those schedule, whatever that income 2019, expenses 2019, that is that's part of the appraisal.
Yeah, that's
And the
all.
Schedule B.
Okay.
Okay.
Walked through, and I didn't actually have all those papers. He put them in, and the assessor's office has done a great job of adding everything to the files.
Right, but this
Yeah.
one didn't come in. Okay, so the other question was, I haven't seen this before, but he added the COVID-19 supplemental info sheet to the backup. And is that, maybe Ross can speak to that, is that something that Chris Kieran sent out, Ross, or did the office send that to all the commercial, these questions on financial relief for your tenants? Are you aware of any federal or state relief?
Yeah, this is Ross. We included that with all the I&Es this year.
So this wasn't part of the informal hearings, this was just, or it was used in the informals? Okay.
Yes.
Those were sent out, we sent out the I&Es in mid-April, and those were included, that questionnaire.
Got it.
This is Harold. We can see that on the field card that there was an adjustment made in the informal hearing to reduce the valuation. So he did benefit from the informal hearing.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just ask Ross, because I don't feel qualified to, evaluate the sheets in here. Do you have any comments on what he included or didn't include in his appraisal?
Yeah, this is Ross. Unfortunately, I was on another call and just joined back in. So if you can tell me the appeal number, I'll pop it up.
315, right, Catherine, I think?
315.
315.
315.
Mm-hmm.
It would take me at least, I don't know, it would take me a bit of time to go through this, so I don't know if I want to hold you up on it.
This is Harold. Do we want to set this aside and bring it up in a few minutes?
This is Paul. This gentleman came with an appraisal, or the appraisal presenting. I wasn't clear on that.
The appraiser is the owner, and I'm sorry I forget his name. I think it was Peter, but I'm sorry, because it's a company name. He brought Jeff Zeleny as his appraiser and sat there, and they both went through all the numbers, but Jeff Zeleny definitely did the presentation and answered any question that I had, with all the numbers, and then he sent in the documentation of the numbers.
And were you satisfied with what he said? Like it was
I
logical
did.
and made.
No, it was a very, I was impressed with a couple of things. Like, look, he knew all the lease terms, and this is the lease that's in effect for 5 years, and it's been there for 20 years. So, you know, this is what it's renting at. Because they've been such long-term tenants, I thought it was very good that he used the market rate and not the contract rate. I thought that was, and then he almost gave me like a nice tutorial. He was very good and gave me different cap rates for all the different types of investments, and we had a good business discussion. And I could have asked him anything, but I thought he had made his case. He did what we're asking appellants to do. Judy has a question for us. I don't, Paulette, finish up, but yep, sorry.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Based on what Catherine's saying, and I certainly trust her judgment, like she said, it sounds like he made his case. I don't know that it's necessary for Ross to review the information that she already reviewed and is satisfied. So I think we should take a vote.
Judy?
I'm exactly right there. I was just going to say that if Catherine's happy, if Catherine's satisfied, and I don't see any reason for Ross to go back and take a look, I'm ready to vote too.
This is Kathleen. I asked for him to confirm what Catherine was saying, and if somebody wants to call the question, you can call the question, and if there's a majority vote, you can take it and vote without him having the ability to, answer my looking for confirmation. That's all. It's one of 5 members, and like I said, for me on the commercials, I'm going to ask for his input on it. I can use it or not. You guys can use it or not, but that's what I said, because I'm not comfortable with the commercial.
I mean, I'm comfortable
Carol,
waiting.
what do you want?
Well, I'm waiting to hear what Catherine has to say. And when we finish our comments, I'll call
Well,
her.
I mean, here's my thought. Kathleen, I just want to say something. I totally respect that you want to get this information from Ross. I totally respect that. The other part of it is you're probably going to vote no anyway. So
This is Kathleen. No, actually, I have voted yes for ones when he's looked at them and said, yes, this looks good. And he's here to help us with them. That's one of the reasons why we elected I know you weren't on the board then, but in December, we elected to hear these because there are some people that we can help and keep them out of court. But the question is, can we have confidence around it when they're commercial properties and they're more complicated than real estate? So that's why I have voted for other ones. Once he's looked at them and said, this looks good, or let me back the real estate taxes out. The other night, we backed the real estate taxes out of one and came up with a different number, and we voted for them. So on these small commercial ones, there is the ability to help them. I'm comfortable on the small ones, but not if they don't provide information. That's a different story, but he's got a lot of information here. I just want to make sure it's consistent with what the office sees and how we interpret it and make sure we're not missing anything. That's all.
I'm certainly not gonna fight
This
over
is
it.
this is Harold. Who's speaking? I'm sorry.
It was Paulette. I was just
yeah.
that I'm not gonna insist that he not look at it. I'm certainly not gonna go down that road. But again, for the record, I'm gonna renew my objection to him being in every meeting. He doesn't believe he's had his shot. They did their assessments, they did their appraisals. Now the appellant comes. We have a qualified person on the board who's comfortable with it. I think that from my perspective, I don't think that Ross has to be weighing in on stuff. I've said it before and I'll say it again. He doesn't belong helping us with this, not in this way.
All right. This is Harold. Catherine, you were going to say something?
I just like, again, I'm kind of like, I'm always a middle person. I'm very moderate. I didn't know I was supposed to give Ross all our appeals, and I feel bad asking Ross, well, can you take a look at my next 3 in the next half hour to get it done? So that's where I am trying to push through ones that I thought were more clear cut. But if Ross wants to say, I'm more than willing to wait a half hour, but I don't know that I'm willing to wait another day or two to move this process forward on ones that I feel are pretty clear cut.
I have a hard truth. The hard truth is that I'm for it. I think Catherine's for it, and I think Paulette's for it. We can continue to go on, but, based upon this right now, I think it would pass.
You can, like I said, this is Kathleen. I mean, one of the things in Robert's rules, you can call the question and just call for a vote with no further discussion, and that's totally appropriate.
And Kathleen, if then something comes out that you're not comfortable with as the dissenting person, can you bring it back up for a
No,
revote?
I can't. No, those in the majority can, but that's, again, that's your right too. If you realize something showed up and whoops, they didn't include something very important that we didn't know about, because he's got access to all of their information for years. So that's all I'm saying. It's just verifying the data. And, it's not like I'm opposed to it. I just want a higher comfort level on the commercials than I have right now. That's all. That's, but that's why I'll vote no if I can't vote yes, if I'm not confident they're aggrieved. And they have had an informal hearing already. So I know Chris Kieran has looked at their data and he gave them an adjustment, but he didn't give them everything they wanted. So, why might that not be? I'm not sure.
Might not be, because it works for the town. That's
No, this is.
Please, one at a time, and please identify yourselves. Otherwise, the town records cannot record the information that it's receiving properly. So, Judy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just have the issue with, to get verification. Aren't these appellants under oath to give us the truth? They're not lying. I don't know why we need to get further verification. It's basically saying we don't trust you. We don't trust what you submitted to us, and we're going to have to make sure that that's accurate.
This is Harold. If you're under oath, you can always be questioned, not necessarily on just on the things that you stated, but things that you did not state. That's also open for review.
at that time.
I'm
It's the
sorry.
whole truth. It's all the other pieces. They can tell the truth and
Who
maybe
is
not
speaking?
include something important.
Who is speaking? One at a time, please. Who is speaking?
Catherine would like to call the question if there's no more.
All right.
I'll second that if we need a second on it.
All those, I'm going to call a vote. All those in favor of granting this appeal to the requested value of $1,400,000?
No, this is Harold, this is Kathleen. You have to vote on calling the question first, and that's to stop the discussion and go right to a vote. That's what calling the question does. So you have to vote on that. Since somebody raised it and she got a second, now you have to see whether we continue discussion or the question gets called.
Understood. This is Harold speaking. Thank you. I'm going to call a vote on the motion to call the question. We have a second on that.
Yes, I seconded it. It's Judy.
Yes. All those in favor of calling the question, please raise your hand. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor. Opposed? That's one opposed. Okay. The motion to call the question is approved with a vote of 4-1-0. All those in favor of granting the requested value of $1,400,000 in this appeal? I'm sorry. Yes.
The number was amended by the owner to reflect the market rate, and it would be $1,488,400. That's the number we're voting on.
Yes. $1,488,400 is the requested value. All those in favor of granting this appeal to $1,488,400, please raise your hand. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor. Opposed? 1 opposed. The motion is granted in the amount of $1,488,400. The vote is 4 in favor, 1 opposed, no abstentions. Kathleen opposed.
Excuse me, this is Kathy. Which board member made the motion to call the question, please?
That was Catherine, and that was seconded by Judy.
Judy, right. Thank you.
Thank you.
going to try to get through 2 more appeals
Excellent.
because I have duty to get back. Appeal number 382 is for 441 Kings Highway. The owner is Trust Realty Corp. And Jonathan Ekman from Fischel Properties was the appellant. I'd like to make a request or a motion to request the motion to reduce the town's value of $1,344,100 to a requested value of $1,011,100. And may I have a second?
I'll second it, Judy.
Thank you. So this is the property in front of the Board of Ed. And every time you go by it, it's a different Asian restaurant. So right now it's known as the Rice Bucket. That is the renter. And the renter is represented as, you know, she's a viable renter and it's a good lease that she's there for the duration as the restaurants come and go. So again, this is a commercial real estate developer who did the presentation and the information is presented. So there was a lot of facts, there was a lot of numbers, and it was just a discussion of there was nothing, what we do. There was no emotional, it was all by the numbers. The owner of the Rice Bucket, it's a 5-year lease that will terminate in 2023. Now the rent is at $21 a square foot, which is typical for that restaurant. There's an additional $2.50 added in for, you know, the various operating expenses that has to be held in, paid. So they're supposed to collect $113,000 for the year. You take out their expenses. They did an unloaded rate, including the real estate taxes, and then they capitalized at 7.5% to come up with a value of $1 million. If you didn't take the loaded rate, you'd have to do it at a higher, you know, 9%. And they did not do it that way. I know the town does it that way, but so I'm not quite sure, but I think that would raise the to about $1.1 million if you took the real estate taxes out and did a 9% cap rate. So again, I think their value is right where it's supposed to be. And again, what it kind of impressed me, I was like, well, how are you guys dealing with COVID? How is that restaurant? There seems to be a lot of vacancy in that restaurant if we're using your income. And he's like, well, it's kind of life. Like, that's what it is. That's why we're in commercial real estate development. It's riskier, and that's why the rates are higher. We intend to ride that storm out. And I was like, well, I'm out of curiosity. How much did you actually collect? Would you share that information? Because, you know, you're valuing it at the $113,000 of rent that you're under contract to collect. And he said, oh, we collected less than half. Like, we collected, I think, a little over 50,000, but that's not our valuation. So I think that speaks for like the numbers too. Like, they're not chasing something. They're saying this is the rent that we expect to get for the next few years. And this is the valuation that we're coming up with on those numbers. So that's what kind of instills the confidence in me. There was no, lo and behold, what can you do for me? My rents I'm not collecting. What can I do? It was like, hey, this is it. This is what we value the property at because this is its investment potential. So that's what I'm presenting to the board, you know, to the forum.
This is Harold. Any comments or discussion?
Oh, sorry. So if the real estate, can you explain it again? Because I know that the town doesn't want the real estate taxes in there. So they take them out afterwards. We did this I don't know if Ross is still there. He did the calculation pretty quickly the other day for someone when the taxes were in their income and expenses to take them out. So how would we do that on this one and with the number change? I guess that's the answer.
Yes, and he has that laid out. If you go down, it's almost the last page. It's just above the last field card. Sometimes there's different copies of the field card in there.
Right.
So, you know, his real estate tax is in there at 23, which is almost all of his expenses at 37. Right. So would say, well, you know, his income should be, you know, $23,000 higher, but I'm not sure how the town values that cap rate then.
This is Harold. Yes, we learned that earlier on several of the appeals. So I think we can carry that forward and take that into consideration again. So if there's no other points to highlight or discuss, I'm ready to call a vote.
So this is Kathleen. I just want to know what the new number is with it done the way we usually do it. That's my question. Okay.
So then his contract rate would be closer to 100,000, but I don't know what the cap rate. I think at 100, like say then it would be 100,000. And if you used a cap rate of like a 9%, which I think another appraisal had mentioned in his appraisal, so divide by the 0.09, then you'd be looking at, I think, like closer to the 1,000,001 number. Still not the town value of 1,000,003. And he's asking for a little million. So, I mean, the numbers are closer. Yes, they're still apart, but you know, that tax is in there, and he's using 7.5% with the taxes, not an 8% which was brought up to me and when I asked other appraisers what they use. And downtown restaurants, and outside, another appraisal said, you know, 7-8%, and Fairfield's restaurant scene is so good. They could expect more, and he used a 7.5, but he's not downtown. You know, he's over on Kings Highway.
Yeah.
And he has a lot more vacancy than he didn't report any vacancy.
By the
Because
way,
he said-
that's a really good restaurant. Has anybody been there?
No.
Of course you have, Harold.
No,
he doesn't report any vacancy because he has this lease. So I feel like he's takes a kind of conservative approach to it. You know, he's not going for the 8%. He goes for the 7.5. He doesn't include any vacancy, even though his lease could end, but doesn't. And he didn't take in effect any of his COVID collections being so far down.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to change to grant an appeal to 1,000,001.
I'll second that, Kathleen.
Judy seconds. All those in favor of granting an amendment to value the property at $1,100,000, please raise your hand. I have 3 in favor. Opposed? 1 opposed. Abstentions? Paulette, how do you vote?
oppose. I'm going to oppose.
You're opposed, okay?
Yes.
So let me see. We had 3 in favor. Catherine, how did you vote? Opposed?
I did.
And 2 opposed. Catherine and Paulette opposed. The motion is carried to grant in part to $1,100,000. Now, on the original motion, all those in favor of granting this appeal in part to the value of $1,100,000, please raise your hand. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The appeal is granted. The appeal is granted in part to the revised value of $1,100,000. Thank you.
Okay. One more, Judy, and then I'll get it back to you, okay?
Oh my gosh.
I have some too, so, okay.
Half of mine. Okay, the next appeal I would like to do is appeal number 135 for 70 Reef Road. Owned by 70 Reef Road LLC, and the owner and appellant Dana Larson presented. I'd like to make a motion to reduce the town's value of $1,189,700 to a requested value of $950,000.
I'll second it. It's Kathleen.
Thank you. Okay, Dana does live on the other coast. She's out west, and she inherited this property just before the valuation period. So I believe it was in June of 19, they had a professional appraisal done, and it came in at $990,000. It was a limited appraisal for the inheritance. So this is the property. It is the Greek restaurant across from the Green on Reef Road. A little tight on the parking, and has that, kind of tent outside to increase the space. It's quite a tight restaurant. And there's also office space on the second floor.
Your input is invalid.
And there's office space on the third floor as well. However, she would like to point out that that top floor, I think she has how many square feet it is, a couple hundred, quite small, 254 square feet of office space up on the third floor. You can access it only from the second floor. There's no outdoor access. It's unheated, and yes, it's finished and has carpeting in it, but she says she really just lets the ground floor tenant use it for storage. Who's ever there, they can use it for storage. So it's not another office, and nobody really has rented it. She hasn't had an office tenant there for a while. They had trouble finding comparable properties. The closest one was, I think, 136 John Street, and she was like, well, they just didn't know how to value everything. But again, on income, they're supposed to have income of almost 90,000, and with a cap rate of 9%, which we see is quite consistent there, that's where the appraisal came up to 990,000. In 2020, she had a gross of a little over 100, so it was a little higher. And in 2021, she collected maybe, this is gross income, maybe 40,000. She hadn't figured out the total, but there's no number. She's basically just let the restaurant be there. He is in the process of trying to sell that restaurant. There's really very little interest because it doesn't have the bar scene that the rest of the restaurants have, but it's still a viable option. So he's been at half rent for a while. Anyway, there's that. And she had a computer company in the second floor office for a little bit, but she can't remember when they actually left, definitely during COVID. And there's no rental market for it. So based on her numbers, and again, she's a relatively new owner of the property, not really sure why she requested 950 when the appraisal was at 990, other than, a tough COVID year. And looking for the potential, she doesn't have a long-term lessee in there. All that said, we know where the property is, and, it's a great location for a restaurant. Harold?
Yes.
Much?
She stated that there was, the square footage was incorrect. Is that due to the fact that she determines the extension in the front to be not a permanent structure? Is that being calculated?
It's actually the third floor attic. Even though it's finished space, she said it's just not, it's not rented. It's never been rented. They use it for storage. So she's just questioning that 250 as in, living area. She says it's really not used. But it is finished space. So it's unheated out. And she said, what? Yes, Paulette, sorry.
I'm sorry. Did she say there's no heat up there? Did I read that? Oh yeah, the attic does
That's
not have
correct.
It's therefore unleasable. So even though it's finished, it's unleasable space. That's why they use it for storage. Okay.
Right. She says it's only been used for storage since she inherited this property a couple of years ago. Judy?
I'm okay with the 990. You got an appraisal there. I'm okay with the 990, and I vote for that.
Would you like to make an amendment for that? Or would you like me to?
Why don't you, it's your hearing, you make the amendment. Go ahead.
Okay, well, before I make that amendment, because I will, does anybody have any other questions? Because then the vote tends to go faster. Harold and Kathleen, in that order?
Go ahead, Kathleen, you first.
Okay, so just a couple points. This was a June 5, 2019 appraisal, right? It was exterior only on the building. So doesn't look like, it does say in Wilton, Connecticut, but I think that's probably a typo. I believe it, I think it's the right property. I don't think it's the wrong appraisal. It then says 70 Reef Road, but the appraiser did not go into the building. It is like I said, it's dated June 5th, 2019. It's a downtown restaurant. And then looking at the income, which I would think probably is more important because it's a restaurant downtown, they used a 9% cap rate, Catherine, as opposed to the last restaurant we just saw a 7.5% cap rate. So can you speak to that a little bit to know why this should be 9 and the other person who we thought was fair used a 7 or 7.5?
Because the 7.5 was real estate loaded. Was without the real estate taxes, so we used the 9% to come up with the 1,000,001, including the real estate taxes. We
So
loaded up with the 9%.
So that's okay. So
the difference between the 7 and 9, they're allowing like 2% for real estate taxes.
So Ross, this is Kathleen for Ross. In restaurants, what do we typically see for an appropriate cap rate on a restaurant? Because I know it varies back and forth, right? So now I got a little confused on the cap rate. So
I'd have to dig it up. I don't have that on the top of my head, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fine. I thought there were some numbers. I know I've heard the nursing homes use, like 12% cap rates. Different industries use different cap rates. So, all right.
Interesting that, Kathleen, to answer your question, the other appraiser that I was just picking his brain because I'm like, I need some help in all these cap rates used for all different things. He said that a downtown Fairfield restaurant should be pretty strong if they have a good, a good vibe, and between 7 and 8% would be very consistent for a down. That's what he said. He was the Lexus. He valued the Lexus, but he gave me all his commercial rates that he likes to see, the cap rates.
So nine's a little high. In other words, 9 is high, right?
9 was what we used with the real estate tax. 7 to 8% without the real estate tax.
And assuming 7 to 8 without taxes is what the Lexus gentleman was saying was appropriate for. Okay, so if we were to take this down to a 7 or 8% cap rate, the value would go up or down? Would go up, right?
Well,
A lower cap rate is going to give a higher value.
You'd have to take out the taxes.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if the cap rate was different, if you use a 7% cap rate, the value is going to be higher than 990. That's the point I wanted. That's the question I'm asking.
You're correct.
Lower cap rate, higher value. Okay.
You're making less money off it.
This is Harold. Question, looking at the card, I see that because it was mentioned about the second floor is finished, as we see from the pictures. That's appraisal value is $3,600. So it's not a significant factor in the valuations. It's $3,600. There was an adjustment also that was done as a result of the informal hearing. So there was some consideration given to whatever arguments or presentations were made before the informal hearing staff. So I'm ready to call a vote on this, unless there's further discussion. Yes, let me go back to something that was raised earlier regarding making an amendment to a value of the appraised value of $990,000. I like those big numbers.
I would second that. Amendment to 990.
Well, I was just bringing it back up. I wasn't going to make a motion.
I will make the motion to amend the requested value to $990.
Is there a second?
This is Paulette.
Judy
Oh.
second.
No, let Paulette second that one.
Oh, thank you. I'll second.
Okay, Paulette seconds. Okay. As long as there's a second. So now to the original motion. All those in favor, well, let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amended value of $9,900,000, please raise your hand.
Would you say 9,900,000? Did you say that again?
I'm just seeing if you're paying attention, and you are. $990,000. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3 opposed. 2 opposed. The motion to grant to $990,000 is approved. The vote is 3 in favor, 2 opposed. Harold and Kathleen are opposed. Now the original motion to grant in part to $990,000. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 3 in favor. All those opposed, please raise your hand. 2 opposed. The motion is granted to grant in part to $990,000. Thank you. The Harold and Kathleen opposed, for the record. Yes, Judy.
I just was wondering if it's okay if I just present one more and then Kathleen can have the floor after that. Because Paulette's here, we have some information on something we've already talked about, and I'd like to get this handled today. And that would be it. And then Kathleen, power to you.
Right.
Is that okay with you? Would that be all right?
Yes.
Everybody amenable? Thank you very much.
Yep, we're back to Catherine. Either one, that's fine.
Our Catherine's all done though. I thought that was her last one.
She has 3 more.
Over today. Judy, take it away. As long as we're all chipping away at them, they're all
Just
a good
moving forward.
All
Moving
right.
forward.
Okay. This is
Progress.
appeal number 58. And the property location is 251 Main Street. Property owner's name, WVB 251 Main Street LLC, 251 Main Street, Southport. Town's value is $2,045,400. The appellant's opinion of fair market value is $1,500,000. I make a motion to approve the appellant's opinion of fair market value of $1,500,000. Is there a second?
This is Paulette. I'll second.
Thank you
Paul
very much.
seconds.
All right, we know this property. We've all talked about it. Paulette has some additional information.
I think this is Paulette. I think when we stopped on this property the other day, Kathleen had a question about paperwork handed into the town. Income and expense, I think, was it? But when I checked with the town, I was told by one of the women there, I don't know if it was, is there a Kathy there or whatever? I don't even know who I talked to, but it wasn't Paula. That those papers have been submitted, the correct paperwork has been submitted to the town, but they do not release that to us. We don't have access to that information. And we held up the vote because I think Kathleen wanted to see that information, and we're not allowed to see that. We don't have, they're not giving us access to it. So we shouldn't hold up the decision just based on that. In the meantime, she included comps in her area in Southport, and I looked every one of these up. Some of them don't really apply because they're not the same kind of situation that she has, where she has office space on the bottom and then residential upstairs. So I looked at the ones that did more closely. But also she has, people don't want to use that argument. Well, I want my neighbors to have. But actually, look at the percentage. That's a huge increase in percentage. 51.69% on that building, on that part of the building, I should say. We also had a question about the square footage of the office space because of the way the diagram is done on Vision. If you look at the diagram, it shows you that she's got 3308 square feet of living space, mostly on the first floor, but then 616 on the second floor. The way they did the drawing, it shows that, I think somebody had a question about the space because it was listed as base, and that's usually a first floor. But in this case, that's the middle level, 3-story building, office, and then residential 2 stories each. The condos are 2 stories. So that the square footage looks right based on what Vision has. If we look at the bottom half of her diagram there, of her list, I should say, properties. The ones from 95 Harbor, that building didn't sell. That building is on the water. It's a bridge when you go over from at the beginning of Harbor Road, you go down toward, you're going to go into Southport Village or Southport Center. It's that building there right at the bridge where the bridge is, where they also have a huge parking lot, and they're right on the water. So they're waterfront. And that building went up down 18% in value. And maybe it was overappraised, I don't know. But still, her building doesn't have a parking lot. She is not waterfront. And from inside the building, there's only 2 places in the building, 2 seats in the building that has a water view. The rest of it does not, because the Southport Yacht Club blocks the water view from that whole side of the building, except for 2 seats. And the front seats, there's a little area in the front that just looks across the street at the building. So she doesn't really have, I wouldn't call that exceptional water views. I'd call it very limited water views. But the interesting thing that I found after speaking to her the second time was that there is a building, because the sales, it's hard to find comparable sales, but there is one. 181 Old Post Road. It started on the market in 2018 and was on for a while through 2019, and then off the market and back on again. But the bottom line is, to go faster, it started at, I think, 2.1 million in 2018 for an asking price. In 2019, in November 2019, it dropped to 1,725,000. Then on the 24th of July, it went under deposit when it was listed at 1.6 million even. And that deal fell apart. They put it back on the market and raised it to 1,675,000. Didn't sell. They took it off the market and put it back on for 1,575,000, and then got an offer on it, which they accepted. Now it will close on May 1st for $1,540,000. Interestingly enough, I'm sorry Monique's not here, because he always likes to point out that something was purchased several years ago for a much higher price. This was purchased for $1,825,000 a while ago. I think it was like 2016, might have even been earlier. But now it's selling for $285,000 less. So not all properties go up. But this sale price of 1,540, and this property is bigger. It is, square feet on it. It's over 4,000 square feet. And hers is 3,308. Now it's not on the water, but it's an antique, similar design, similar use.
What about parking, Paulette? Does that other property have any parking?
The other property has parking, yes. This does
See, no,
not.
that's another big difference too. Right.
Yep. So I believe that she has a case that her value is she's just overvalued for where she is and what she has. By the way, she's also in a flood zone, and they are not. So purchasing that, if I had to purchase one or the other, even though that's at Main Street is a very nice location, I don't know that I would be looking for something that big in a flood zone. So flood insurance was probably tremendous. I didn't think to ask her what it was, but flood there would be high. So that's just my, for after speaking with her and reviewing and researching everything, I believe that she does have space to drop that market value to 1,500,000. The other one that's selling for 1,540,000 is 1,000 square feet bigger, at least, plus the parking. So I think that that difference can be taken out by those factors. I'm done.
Thank you very much for your assistance on that, Paulette. Appreciate it.
This is Kathleen. So we brought this up twice. Actually, the last time it was, I made the point that she doesn't have her income and expenses in there, her cap rate, her rentals, the way that we've been looking at some of these other commercial properties. So even though she may have it on file with the town, we have seen the other commercials give us, what we just saw in the last 3 or 4. So I was looking for that for this property. But the reason why I think I asked for no action the second time we talked about it was because she was questioning that the town had measured the building correctly. So is she now saying, have you spoken with her, Paulette? And she's no longer questioning the way that the town is measuring it? Because the last discussion we had was, that someone should go out and measure the building to make sure that the condos and the retail space are accurately reflected, the residential condos versus the other condos. So she's saying the town square footage and measurement is now correct?
If I remember correctly, it wasn't she that was requesting that it was wrong. She's originally saying that, and that's why she colored the picture the way she did. She's originally saying that perhaps the appraiser didn't realize that the upstairs is not office space based on the amount her appraisal went up. She thought that perhaps, it says, in fairness to him, he might not have realized that that whole upstairs is not office space. But if you look at Vision Appraisal's card, it shows you that it's just the first floor and then that little area upstairs. If I'm not mistaken, Kathleen, I think you were questioning what was upstairs, because when you look at how they draw it out, it looked like, I'm trying to find that drawing now. Where is it? It looked like the condos. Oh, it wasn't on this. It's on the condo one. The condos, because they're on the second and third floor, the way that, when they draw it out and they say the BAS section is usually the first floor, they have that on that condo one. But that is the first floor of the condo, even though it's in the middle of the building. If you look at a split level, if you look at a field card for split level, it's the same thing. The middle level, which is the main level for that building, is in the middle. It's the middle, but it's called base, BAS.
Right.
Yeah,
So
Paul,
this
but this is the second, Paul, I'm sorry, Paulette, but you know what? This is the second time we went over this whole thing about how each floor is laid out. This is, thank you for reiterating it. We've already went over this. I think everybody remembers that.
So
Paulette and both did.
Yeah,
she was questioning it in her appeal. In fairness to the appraiser, he or she may have mistakenly assumed 251 Main Street comprised the entire building without discounting for the two townhouses also within the same building, which are assessed separately. So she was questioning his measurements. So that's why I just want to make sure that she's saying now she no longer questions his measurements, or we're just assuming that he is right and she is not questioning it. That's what I'm trying to,
No, Kathleen, we had this conversation last time. She said.
I know, and that's why we postponed it, was because
you didn't.
the decision was to get them
explain it to you, and I don't think you understood it.
It's
properly.
fine. It's fine.
She admits square footage is the 3,308. She agrees with that. She wasn't questioning that they measured that part wrong. What she was saying is her assessment, her appraisal went up so high, 50-something%. She thought that perhaps high because the person doing the appraising was including the entire building, not just that first floor and that little bit of the second floor.
Right.
But she
exactly, Paulette.
Right. So question for Ross. Ross, are you there?
I am.
Okay, so I had another condo where the town had forgotten to include the land in the appraised value of the condo. So in the reval, that was caught and the land was added back into the condo calculations. So in this case, is that the reason why her appraisal went up by so much, or the land was always included in this one and that's not the reason why she went up? She went up for other reasons.
I don't believe this had anything to do with land being included or not.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Harold. There is a small building to the right side on Harbor Road of this property. Looking at the GIS, I cannot tell if that small building is associated with the subject property or not, and if it's being considered as part of this property. And I believe at one time this was commercial on the bottom and perhaps living space above. Does anybody have any ideas about that? First of all, is it a separate parcel or is it connected to this building? Because I can't seem to find it on the GIS. And secondly, is this considered a multi-use commercial and living property?
Kathleen, it's a commercial condo. It's condominiumized, so it's different than
Okay,
you know, some of the others. They're
So-
valued, you know, condos are difficult, right? We have some other condos too.
right. So then just to my other question, is this separately owned or is it part of the subject property?
I'm not sure what building you're talking about, Harold. I'd have to go to the map.
If you look at yeah, I was trying to find it on the map, but if you look at the subject property and its frontage on Harbor Road, you see a small building just to the right of that.
Still white in color?
Let me go back to the picture again. It's, you know, looking, you've got the blue awnings, and then next to it is kind of a beige or brown building
Part of it.
with a peaked roof.
I have it
That's
up
not-
on GIS,
Yeah.
Harold.
Behind the white car, yes.
This is Ross. I have it open on the GIS. You can see that building to the
Yes.
right.
I see.
That building.
With the stairs
The stairs going up the
in
side.
between, right? So you're asking on the GIS, it looks like that's part of the subject property as well. But the GIS is never,
That's not part of the subject property.
That's what I'm asking, Judy.
that's what we asked. Is that a separate parcel?
Yes, separate parcel.
I don't show that as a separate parcel.
That's part of that building?
Paulette,
No.
why do you say it's not, it's a separate parcel?
Because, well, I have to look up the address, but I'm looking at the picture on the vision appraisal thing that she colored in the upstairs. You see where she colored it in yellow? She stopped before she got to that building. She stopped before that next building.
Okay,
So-
so I'm asking, is this part of the subject property and should it be taken into consideration into the entire value of the property because of, it includes the area of that property?
Anytime that there's an additional building or structure on a property, it's always noted in vision.
And
You always see
so,
those-
Yeah, this is Ross. This is a little different because it's condoed. So we show that there's 3 condo units, the commercial on the first floor and 2 residential condos on the second. So I'm not sure where this building is being included right at the moment.
is it, this is Harold, is it a rental property? Is it utilized by the subject property in any way? Is it,
Parking, this is
How do we
Kathleen. It shows as 656 Harbor Road. It looks like it's a separate parcel. The GIS is covering it up, but if you look at least in the parcel IDs, if you look for 656 Harbor Road, it shows that particular building.
That's a separate building.
That's what, right, even though the GIS is, it looks like it's covering it, that's an office, it's considered an office condo, according to Vision, next door with a landline valuation of 0. So whether that is considered part of that same condo complex or its own condo, but it does have a separate property ID number, you know, a separate card.
What was the address on that, Kathleen?
656 Harbor Road, but it also is a condominium. So
Yeah,
it
this
may
is Ross.
be part of the condo complex. I don't know.
This is Ross. I see it now. There are 2 additional units. So this condo complex is actually 5 units. And that separate building is an additional 2 units in the condo complex. And they are both commercial. And they have their own values on their own since it's condoed.
And they're different owners too.
But that's separate from what we're talking. It's
That's
separate from what we're talking about.
this is Harold. I brought it up because I'm not sure how to consider this. And you say it's separate. I don't know. It's listed under Kinder Properties. I'm just pointing it out. It's, I don't know who Kinder Properties is, but Yeah, I'm just saying that there's more to this building and, than, just the white structure.
Yeah, there's more to the actual structure, but the owner that's contesting her appraisal is not the same owner as that building that you're talking about. It's a different owner.
Okay. No, I understand. Yeah, okay, I buy that, yep. That's why I'm asking for some clarification on it. Okay,
Right. But this is Kathleen. So if it's a condo complex, there's common land for all of those now, like 3 commercial condos and 2 residential condos. Is that we're saying the right building is 2 condos. The main building is first floor commercial condo with 2 other residential condos in the building. So there's 5 there. Do they have parking for the condominium complex? That if it's a shared well, if it's a condo, so none of those condominiums have any parking on, because, right, it's a shared piece of land. They don't own the land anymore. It's commonly owned because it's a condominium. So I do see a driveway, I don't know, maybe the condominium complex has no parking. I don't. But it's, yeah, Southport Harbor Court condos is what it's called, right? That's the condo development.
Well,
And
I
it
don't
looks
know.
like the other building on the right has 780 square feet on the first floor. I'd have to find the property card for the second condo. So that's valued at $532,000. I'm not saying it's right, but the town has the first floor that is 780 square feet at, $532,000 next door.
Okay, but why are we talking about that when we're looking at the building on the corner, and that's the building that's the subject property right now? The other part of that building is owned by a different owner, has nothing to do with this assessment. So why are we concerned about that one?
This is Kathleen. So looking at commercial condo properties in Southport. That's what this is. It's an appeal, and she doesn't have any, she didn't give us cap rates and rental information. So we're looking at the other condos around there.
Why do I feel like we're singling out this person and giving them a difficult time? It's a condo.
Yeah, that's right. It's Kathleen. It's a commercial condo. It's not a residential condo. It's a flagship property in this town, and we all know that. It's in many movies, and it's right across from Southport Harbor. It's probably a very valuable condo. And the question is, are we going to reduce it from $2 million to $150 without a lot of other information to know that it's that wrong? That's my point. That's all. And I'm done.
Why do we have to? What other information do we need? She gave us comps. She shows how far off her value is to everybody else's. She showed us the one that's about to close in May that was on the market for all that time, all during the evaluation period, and is now closing for $1,540,000. Finally, after being on the market since 2018, the antique building. It's a beautiful building if you pull it up. Is it the same exact location? No, but it's still Southport. All those are, by the way, in the same neighborhood with the same codes, because I looked them all up, including this one and the one that's going to close. So I'm not really sure, and why do we need to see if they don't have to provide the income and expenses, then why are we insisting on it? Because I don't know why the other people provided it, because the assessor's office told me that it's private, we shouldn't have it, and we don't have access to it, and they won't give it to us. So I don't understand why we expect her to give it to us. Make a decision.
Can we call a vote? Can we call a vote?
Do you want to call the question?
Is there any other questions?
That's her motion. Is that the motion?
If there's no further comment or discussion, I'll call a vote.
We ask Ross then, before we do that?
Pardon?
I just want to ask Ross one question before we do that.
Yes, he's here for that purpose.
Based on the amount of that increase, now I know it's a curve, but it looks like the curve got stuck on this property because it's so far out of whack from everybody else's. Is there another reason that it went up that much that we don't know?
I'm not sure I completely follow. There is no curve for increases. I mean, we don't look at increase as a measure of validating an assessment.
Okay. So her property, Her property went up significantly, more than everybody else.
Yeah, 51%, when everything else around it, nothing even hit 20%. So I don't get it.
And the one on the harbor down 18%. It just seems like something's really out of whack with that. I mean, if it was in line with everybody else, I'd say, well, it's like everybody else's, you know, that's the values there, that's fine. But I just don't see why that should be that much.
This is Kathleen, the neighbor, that condo next door did go up quite a bit too. It was assessed at 245 and it went to 372 assessed.
It's a commercial condo?
Up by 50%. The commercial condo right next door, the small one we just looked at, that's a condo in the same complex, did go up by 50% assessed from 245 to 372. So the
Maybe that was
the same complex. So that might
maybe that was
explain.
understood.
Well, I just have to do the math, but divide the 245 by 0.7, you know, and that probably went up pretty close to 50% as well. Maybe not quite as much, but it did go up by, you know, a significant amount next door. So it happened next door too, and that's a commercial condo, a small commercial condo because it's 700 square feet. She's 3,300 square feet on the corner. So.
Well, I gotta tell you, this one hits home with me because I don't know why we're spending so much time going over stuff we've gone over and over and over and over again. She's not out of line. We have comps. There's apparently some issues there with the town and how it got reassessed. She's over the increase is over the top. I'm absolutely fine with the 1.5, and I think we should stop giving this taxpayer such a hard time.
I agree.
This is Harold. I'd like to call the vote unless there's new information we want to discuss. Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of granting this appeal to the requested value, please raise your hand. Opposed? The appeal is granted to the requested value. The vote is 3 in favor, 2 opposed. Harold and Kathleen opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
We're gonna, yeah, thanks all. And so we're gonna do this all again tomorrow morning?
Well, unless you wish to continue, we don't have to stop exactly at 12
You don't have
o'clock.
to stop.
Oh, I've got a lot of work to do today. I can come
Right.
back tomorrow at night.
Then before we adjourn, I do want to mention one appeal that was raised among, for the board. And this is, since you're here, Judy, I wanted to bring this up. This is appeal number 531. And bear with me, 531. This is an appeal that was presented by Catherine Agosto. It's a multifamily home. And we were asked by the appellant, she had submitted a letter to the board and also to the appraiser's office, that she felt that we did not review all of the information in her file adequately when we made a decision. And the decision was 050. And so there's actually a two-step process, I believe. We need to first vote if we wish to bring this appeal back to the table. And that needs to be, that can be done by anyone who is in the majority. And then I'm going to suggest that I see your hand up, Judy, then I would suggest that we do consider bringing it back to the table, but give everybody time to review the information over this afternoon and this evening, and then we will bring it to the table for deliberation and voting tomorrow morning.
Right.
Was that the appeal number? I didn't get it.
Yes, it's
Here's one.
531.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
make a motion to put it, whatever we need to do to get this back in front of our board, I'd like to do, whatever motion you need.
Okay, Do I have a second?
I'll second Paulette.
Okay, Paulette seconds. So all those in favor of bringing this appeal back to the table for deliberation and voting, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. So we will bring this back to the table, and I would suggest that we bring it back tomorrow after everyone has a chance to review the information. Yes, Judy.
Okay, well, since we're on that, there is, whose appeal was number 556?
531.
This
This isn't
yes,
the Burroughs Road. This is 256 Pratt Street. This is
Yeah, I know. We're on to something else because we're doing that. So whose appeal was 77 Burroughs?
I believe it was John's.
You know, I'd like to, you know what, I really think we should open that up, but I voted for it. I think, well, who voted against it was, and on the winning side, or so to speak.
Majority.
The majority, thank you. Catherine, you voted with the majority and it did not pass. I actually went to the property the other day. And one of the big things about this property that was on like a really bad slope and you couldn't use the property, I went there. I took photos. It is like Billy Goat City. You ever hear of that? Like property is like for a Billy Goat?
Yeah, hold on. There's not a motion on the table, so.
So I need somebody to make a motion to do that, to open that up. And you could do that, Catherine.
Do we have members of the majority present? And
This is definitely, that's what we need to confirm.
let's not
I'm
debate it and we bring it back to the table.
Yeah, I think we need to confirm, because we have a member board of 9, but half of us are here and half are not. I just want to get clarification from the town attorney. I believe all of us were there when we did this commercial one, so I'm comfortable that we can bring it back as a group. I think it was a condo that we did, right? I could be wrong. I look at it again. I just want to make sure that who's there and who's not, does that make a difference or not? It could be brought up by one member to an entirely different quorum of the board. I just want to confirm that we're doing that, that we're doing that process correctly. That's all.
So if Kathleen was a member of the majority, how did the vote go?
I
Does
think it
anyone
went
know?
4-2, right? There were 6 of us. We said who was there. Ronique.
Okay.
I mean, I read it off, but I didn't write it down.
Right, I did. It's Kathleen, Catherine, Ronique, John, Paulette, and myself.
Right.
So
the
we
question becomes,
we do have members here who can second the motion to bring it back to the table. If someone wishes to make the motion and second it, I think we have adequate members of the majority to bring it back to the table, further discuss it. And again, I suggest tomorrow so that we have a chance to look at the photos that were taken and review the information again. Okay, so do we have a motion to bring it back to the table? Yes, Kat.
Could I ask you questions before I make that motion or not? Like, and again, it goes back to, so again, I'd like to confirm that John was the hearing officer and if he should be present to continue that. 2, I believe, I wanted to make sure that my memory is right. Didn't the town go out to look at the property and make a lot of changes? And that would bring my question. I'd like that town person to have some input on why there were no changes made for that slope issue. Because I remember that there was just a lot of stuff on the card that was, not in agreement with the owner. And it all seemed to get straightened out. And that's what we voted on. And I know that fed into why I voted to deny the whole slope thing, because somebody from the town had already gone out. I just want to confirm that it was not part of that review. Is that appropriate to do as I bring it back?
Yes, that's appropriate. And I think that if someone wishes to make a request to the assessor's office, if that in fact was done, that would be a good thing to do. And secondly, if John was the hearing officer for this property, and I believe there's a way to confirm that, then we should hold the second discussion of this property to a time when John is with us on the board, so that he can re-present.
Oh, we're not presenting it now. I just wanted to open it up so he can present it.
Right,
But
so this
I'm
is
saying
definitely-
instead of tomorrow morning, like we could do with Ms. Augusto's property, this property, we want to wait till we have John.
And so I will make the motion to bring it back to the table with the conditions of, I'd like John to be at the table, and I would like John or somebody, not me, to contact the assessor's office and to talk about that site visit. Did it include this issue? Because I think they addressed and met
This is
with.
Kathleen. I think it's in the backup. I think it's in the backup because I believe Ross put a card in there. Paula went out to the property and she put a land adjustment to either 0.9 or 0.95 on the property and a variety of other things to bring the property down to 514. So we can double check the backup, but I think the backup will state that Paula did take the slope into consideration because she did make an adjustment to the land on the property when she visited the property. But Paula could confirm that, again, if you want
Right.
confirmation on that.
Somebody on the board.
Pretty sure that was part of it was all a card correction. So she was denied, and technically she got a card correction, and then her appeal to go down to 440 or whatever she wanted to go to was denied. The lower amount was denied, but she was granted down to, I believe, 514 due to the visit from the assessor's office, and that included an inspection of the the slope.
Okay, I see Paulette's hand up.
Oh, yeah, I think Kathleen's right about that. There was a correction made to the land to 0.90, I guess, or I think it was that, based on Paula's visit. But Judy was at the property. I had been at the property a few weeks before that, walked it. And I think that what we're thinking is that that's not enough of a correction. That's not enough for the, that is. So that's why I think Judy's asking to bring it up. So even though that's there, we could certainly verify it, but I think that that was not nearly enough to compensate for the kind of land that is.
Paulette, thanks for that clarification. That's exactly, I want to bring it back to the table with a definitive something to discuss, not the whole appeal again. So if somebody, I'm ready to bring it back to the table, but I would like to know why we're bringing it back. And Paulette, if it's to review the land condition code, that's my motion. Let's bring it back to the table to review the land condition code. That's good enough for me. Is that good enough for you, Judy?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
I want to bring it back for, a lot of stuff, but that one, okay.
Right. This is Harold. Do we have a motion to bring it back, and do we have it seconded so far? I've lost track.
I motion to bring it back to discuss the land condition code.
All those in favor of,
Do I second for
Yeah,
the?
who was the second? Did I second or did Paulette second?
Second,
Let's go to second it.
all those in favor of reconsidering the appeal number, what was it?
57.
586.
586.
Raise your hand. It's unanimous, 500. And I will bring this appeal up for reconsideration when John is available for presentation. Thank you. All right, I think we did pretty good on the commercial today. I'm sure we made a good dent in our list. We have more to do, so I think we'll keep tomorrow at 9 o'clock going, and we'll try to wrap up what's left and the odds and ends and so on.
Yeah. This
so-
Kathleen, Judy, you have 3 banks. I have some banks as well. Can we agree to do our banks tomorrow, or do you?
Yeah.
Are you Comfortable? I think we have 5 banks total.
Yep.
1, 2,
Yep.
3.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know
Maybe
whether I
we'll
actually have them all ready now on my.
start with the banks and get them out of the way. Either we know how to do them or we don't. So, okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay,
All right. Good.
anything else, or should we, does someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
A second? Catherine seconds. Kathleen?
Yeah.
Up to. I want to thank everybody for this morning's session. Thank you, Kathy, for taking the minutes. Thank you for Ross for your help. And see you, some of you, this evening.